This episode is sponsored by Mailtrap, an email delivery platform that developers love. Try for free at mailtrap.io.
Welcome to the official podcast of PHP Architect. Join us to listen to the latest news and tech talk from our conferences, the magazine, and wider PHP community.
Hello, you're listening to the PHP Podcast, episode 24.5.1, the official podcast of PHP Architect, where we bring you the latest insights into the PHP Architect magazine, conferences, and more. I'm your host, John Congdon, and with me is my friend and business partner, Eric, the Man Van Johnson.
Hey! Well, you call me the man, so I got to do something silly.
There you go. Man, it's been a while since we've done this.
Yeah, we keep saying we're going to get better at it, and maybe one day we will.
Well, you know, when you have a sponsor and they make you stick to a schedule, it kind of helps with that.
That helps, right?
you may have noticed at the beginning of the show that there's a new sponsor for a PHP podcast. So I want to thank Mailtrap, and we'll talk more about them later. But let's get into this one, man.
Let's do it.
We haven't done this show in quite a while, and we had PHP Tech since the last time we recorded. And
yes, that's true.
Man, I cannot tell you how much fun I had during Tech. And we just finished editing the videos, getting those all online.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had a chance to watch any of them?
I not entirely. No, there are a couple that while I was editing, I'm like, I went from editing to engaging with it. And like, oh, okay, all right, I like that. Yeah.
I gotta remember to go back and watch that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I know.
I feel the same way.
Garfield's array talk was one of the ones we talked about it several times about how we had gotten bigger rooms so that we didn't have a crowded room, but then we added a fourth track, so we had split one of the rooms. So we had two big rooms and two smaller rooms, but whatever. And we were trying to arrange it so that the smaller rooms never got overloaded, and we failed miserably.
Unfortunately.
Larry Garfield's was one of the talks that I'm telling you, had it even been in a big room, it would have been probably standing room only. I can't believe how many people filed into that room to watch that talk. So I did watch a good portion of that.
It's such a good talk too. I mean, it gives you such an eye-opening into especially PHP arrays. Just really good.
Does it change your approach?
So I've been using less arrays for a long time. I've been using collections quite a bit. I've been using a lot of the array functions, but ever since getting into value objects, really leaning on that and making collections out of the value objects makes it even better, in my opinion. But yeah, having some sort of typed collection is really nice to know that everything in there is of the same type. You get less worries there, and then using your mapping and reducing functions. I had developers using those for a while, and it just drove me crazy. I'm like, just use a for each. Why do we got to do array map? But then once you get into functional programming and seeing how you can like daisy chain these things together, it really does make a difference.
I gotta start doing that. I always see it, and I like it, but like it every time I go to try it, I get confused about the order of things. It always breaks down for me, and then I'm like, just forget it. Just use it for each. Why not?
Yeah, I know that using collections are supposed to be a little more performant in general. And then again, getting into that functional programming where you're filtering, so it's a very simple process. First, you filter out what you don't want. You map to work on the collection itself. If you're doing any sort of calculations, reducing like all of this data down to some value or something
Mhm.
versus having an array of things is really nice.
Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, how about you? I mean, have you watched any of the so by the way, I don't think we've actually mentioned it, but all the videos are up now on phptech.tv. If you had purchased the ticket to the conference, either physically or virtually, you'll have access to those talks and the talks from 2023. And you can still buy a virtual ticket to this day.
There you go. phptech.tv. Should have had a lower third ready for that, but I did not.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Stay tuned later. We might have some beans to spill about Tech 2025.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the magazine. You know,
Well,
we're
hold on.
oh, 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 oh.
You blew over my question. I asked you,
Oh, I
had
did.
you watched any of the talks?
I forgot you asked me, and then you went back to talk about the the website. Um, so I edited the ballroom, and there were a few talks that stood out to me. I really like Dwayne McDaniel's security talks. Uh,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I saw one of
you
those.
know, when he started talking about honey tokens and like it was like, wow, that's crazy. And he talked about the GitHub fire hose. So every public pull request and commit that is made, you can subscribe to and see everything that happens. So good guys and bad guys can watch that fire hose for AWS credentials that get committed accidentally, you know,
Mhm.
or honey tokens, which are committed on purpose and hoping somebody grabs that and
Grabs it.
uses it. Yeah. So you start seeing things like that happen.
Yeah. Dwayne
Uh,
was a fun story. I don't know if I shared on this show or not. I had run into him at another conference here in Los Angeles, and I saw him. I was like so excited to see him. I'm like, hey, I'm really excited to see you speak at Tech. And he gave me this blank stare and like, I'm not talking Tech. I'm like, what? But you said you would. And it was my fault. I didn't really introduce myself. He didn't realize who I was. I just said tech. We were at another conference called Scale. So he didn't realize I was talking about another conference. And I just like I had that organizer's panic of what? What do you mean you're not talking at tech? And then finally we clarified the situation. But
and he was also just about to go up to speak at Scale, wasn't he?
yeah, I do. I believe he was either on his way or he was the next session.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good
Uh,
guy. It was fun to run into him.
the other talk that really stood out to me that I saw were from Pauline Voss on Git, both
Mm.
advanced Git magic and Git bisect. Both really good talks.
I heard those. I do want to watch her talks because I've heard she has some fantastic talks. Another speaker was coming in and uh, was going to do a Git talk and saw and saw she was speaking, and he was like, "No, that's all right. I'm good." Those are the Git talks you want to go to right there. Trust me.
I don't know if I make the ballroom out to be like the room, right? Because it's got the stage, it's where we do the keynotes. And for the most part, I was very impressed with the speakers that we did have in there.
Mhm.
Like I had a couple people that were concerned about they were going to walk around the stage as
Mhm.
they talk. And I'm like, to me, I love watching a speaker that can do that, that is so comfortable in their material where they can walk, have a presentation, but it feels so informal and so just like, I'm just talking about this topic, like not a big deal.
Mhm.
And you're free to move wherever you want. And where every time I give a talk, I'm so nervous and I'm right behind the podium, like, nobody see me, please. Don't even listen to me. I don't know why you're here. Get out.
Just look at the pretty pictures. Yeah.
Please laugh at the jokes I have in my presentation.
Yeah, my buddy Jake Bennett, I think he did his presentation in the ballroom,
He did.
and I that's the second time he's talked at a conference. He talked at Laricon US, and actually had gone up to him. I'm like, I can't believe, because Laricon US last year was after tech, and I went up to him. I'm like, I can't believe you didn't submit that to me for tech. Because he doesn't live too far away from where tech is held. So he was like, all right. He's like, hey, I'll do it next year if you're so interested. I'm like, absolutely. He's one of those people, like, there are just people who are presenters. He's that guy. Like, he talks he's so well spoken, so comfortable up there. His presentations are so well thought out. I hope he starts speaking more. Maybe different topics, different talks, but I do hope that he speaks more, because he's really good at it.
Yeah, he's another one of those very comfortable in the speaking role. Very good.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was just, I was really happy with the presentations we had in there.
I was happy with all the presenters. To be honest, I mean, it went really well. This year was so much smoother than last year for us personally.
For the most part, we had our own trials and tribulations, especially at the beginning.
Rough start, yeah.
And then it doesn't help that I bought the wrong equipment. It doesn't help that we didn't fully test the equipment that we had, so you had some color correction issues that you had to deal with.
Yeah, we need to watch out for that next time.
We just need to be better camera people.
Yeah.
We're not big into the AV stuff. We're learning. Definitely
Okay.
learning. Every year learn a ton. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's funny, John and I was speaking to John about it this week. Like, PHP Tech TV was such a last minute thought last year at Tech, but like, every time we go in there, we start to tweak it a little bit and do a couple different things, and I'm like getting really happy with what that site's becoming. It's nice.
Yeah.
Did a little work on the UI this year, and yeah, it's getting there.
You've done a lot of good stuff. I have ideas of stuff I'm working on. I just finally got my local development up and running, so hopefully I
Yeah.
can contribute some stuff to it here soon.
Yeah. Magazine woes. You were going to lead into magazine woes, and I cut you off.
Magazine woes. If you're a subscriber, you still get a magazine every month. We are actively trying to get it back earlier in the month. As of late, we've been releasing it very end of month, last few days. Part of that is we're always looking for writers, authors of content. If you want to write and be a published author in a magazine, please reach out to us. Email us write@phparch.com, WRITE at PHPARCH.com. All we need to get the ball rolling is what you want to write about and roughly when you think you could get it done. We're not going to hold you to that. We will send a follow-up email and either say, hey, that's a great idea. We would love to see that in the magazine, or, unfortunately, we don't think it's the right fit. If we think it's a good fit for the magazine, we'll send back basically a form letter of, information we would need from you, like your full name, address, everything we would need to send you a contract. And by the way, did I let you know that we pay for content?
Card hold cash.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to make just a little bit of money, let us know. We pay $175 for an article, roughly 2,500 to 3,500 words. We don't We don't count every single word, so somewhere in that range is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let
And
us know.
to John's point, the deadlines, our columnists, we hold to a deadline. I mean, loosely hold, I guess.
we try to hold.
But feature articles, you tell us. So if you're worried about your commitment, if you have a lot coming up at work and you need to push it out a month or two, you let us know. The only reason we need to know is because we're just planning for the magazine. It's like, okay, we have 2 feature articles for next month and the following month. That's it. I mean, it's not like we're hounding you, get your article in. We actually try to make it as pleasant of an experience as we can. It's really easy. We got a great team of people who will review your article and make sure that you're presenting the best article you can. It actually reflects on us just as much as it reflects on you. So we want to make sure that you're presenting a good article. So we'll help you every step of the way. We even create images every now and then and just throw images in there. So
yeah, and we really I love anything from expertise in a subject to personal stories. Like, here's how I got through this one issue I was having. Sometimes it's I had to learn X, Y, or Z, and this is how I used it to solve an issue I had. My latest example would be CTEs in MySQL, using a common table expression. It's kind of like a left join, but not exactly. So it's a little bit more performant, and it helped a lot. Should I write an article on it? Yes, I should. Am I going to? I'm going to let you do that. If you want to write about CTEs, let us know. I would rather pay you than pay myself.
Exactly. Anything. Not to say it's small, but like we talked about value objects earlier. Those are always good articles. That like value objects is not something everybody uses, but it's an interesting thing. And once you learn about it and start using it, it's like one of these like, oh, this is great. This is a great thing. So it's like anything you learn, chances are, if you wanted to write about it, chances are you're going to teach somebody else.
Exactly. All right. Before I move on to the next thing, I would like to thank our sponsor, Mailtrap. This episode is sponsored by Mailtrap, an email delivery platform that developers love, an email sending solution with industry best analytics, SMTP, and email API, SDKs for major programming languages, and 24/7 human support. Try for free at mailtrap.io. Thank you, Mailtrap.
Thank you, Mailtrap. Wow,
I really like what you
had in sync.
I really like what you did with that ad. Like, you put that nice little music behind there, the image. You did a good job.
Oh, thank you.
All right. We talked about the magazine. Obviously, we're always working on that. But running a business in general, we say this podcast is about PHP Architect and you and I running this business. Man, it is a lot of work for such a small company. Like, I feel like there's got to be a breaking point where all of a sudden things seem easier. And where is that point?
Like any day now would be nice. I don't actually know what we were thinking, because we were already busy with our consulting group before we took over the duties of PHP Architect, and it's like we're just kind of like, oh yeah, it's just a few extra things to do. It's like, how hard can it be?
Yeah, how hard could it be to print a magazine and run a conference? And
it's nothing, I'm sure. Yeah, so we've really loaded up our workload, but man, I love it. I do love it.
Yeah, we talked about PHP Ugly a little bit, but just the day-to-day grind. You and I are both developers. I love writing code. All the other stuff just adds to it. The finding sponsors for a conference, the accounting, the legal contract government stuff that we have to do, the keeping the websites up to date, doing the websites that we don't have clients paying for, like PHP Tech TV.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just all that stuff that nobody sees, all that time is like, where does it go? It makes me want to curl up in a corner and cry.
Yeah. Yeah. But, again, it's, we've talked about it. It's like the idea of, well, first thing, the idea of working for somebody else is kind of a weird, mindset for me to get into anymore. But more importantly, it's just like I just love everything about what we do. Like, I love the industry, I love the language, I love the people in the communities. It's
We
it's
do have
tough.
a pretty awesome community.
Yeah. We didn't even talk about where's he at?
Oscar.
Oscar. What are we doing with Oscars, man? So I was so adamant before the conference that we hadn't bought a lot of these. So we were definitely prioritizing attendees at the conference, and I wouldn't commit to being able to sell them after the conference. As a matter of fact, we even discussed not selling them after the conference, it being like you had to be there to get one sort of deals.
Mm-hmm.
But enough people had asked.
They did. So, yeah, we added Oscar to the site. It is a PHP Tech 2024 elephant. We released it first to all the virtual attendees, then to people that have written for the magazine. It is now generally available. So if you go to phparch.com, you can pick up an Oscar.
There's not a lot.
There is not a lot.
Real honest with you.
Very limited supply, and we're not printing. We're not making any more.
No, we're not making any more. Yeah. So when they're gone, they're gone.
But that begs the question.
Yeah.
Tech 2025. Will there be a new elephant?
That is a good question. You might have to buy a ticket and find out.
There you go.
Because I do think Oscar was a hit. I did enjoy him.
Yeah. If people were going to plan on attend PHP Tech 2025, when would they do that?
Well, they should plan on doing it now. When will the actual conference be held?
Yeah, that's another question.
That's a whole nother question.
Yeah, so we literally just signed the contract yesterday for Tech 2025. We're going to stay at the same hotel. They've been good to us. I like the venue. It's easy to get to from the airport. Yeah, there are pros and cons to it. Some people love it, some people hate it, and most people are somewhere in the middle, right? I get it. To get downtown, it's a little more difficult, but honestly, it's a simple walk from the hotel back to the airport. There's a shortcut that we found. Walk a couple blocks, jump on the airport tram, take the train downtown, you're good to go. We put all that information on the website, easy to find. So we signed the contract 2025, May 20th through the 22nd. Again, going to be
as of the recording of this, we're recording on May 21st, 2024. So we had literally signed the contract to do the conference a year from then.
Yep. May 20th, 2025. Yeah. Looking forward to it. Lots of work to do now. Now it's a matter of start it all over again.
Start the grind all over again. Beg for money for the next 365 days, or actually sooner than that, hopefully.
We're not begging for money. We're offering the opportunity for businesses such as yours to get in front of a group of like-minded people revolving around the PHP technology, PHP programming
decision
language.
makers. That's important. Yeah.
There you go. See,
and
that's how you sell it. Not begging.
We listen to our sponsors. We made a lot of changes to our sponsor app from last year to this year based on feedback that we got, and we will continue to make some changes to that app. We do enjoy engaging with our sponsors. We want to make the conference as good of an experience for them as it is for the attendees. So if you're interested, reach out, let us know. We're working on our prospectus now. Like it's in the works.
Yep. So we will get that out soon. All right. You're the first to know, by the way. We haven't shared that with anybody else.
Yeah.
It's the first time we're making this public.
Getting ready to record. We're like, we want to talk about it? That's not going to change now. We're kind of committed on our end. So, but we do have another announcement. Not a big deal, but historically, the website for tech has been tech.phparch.com, and that will continue to work for at least the foreseeable future. But we're going to use a different URL or domain for like all our branding and moving forward, which will be phptech.io. So we have phptech.tv, which is the streaming end of the conference, and phptech.io will be the actual conference place now. Right. I'm excited about that.
Me too. And then we'll continue leaving the old sites up, I think, as best we can. I think the prior to last year is going to be tricky. Possibly. Yeah. We'll look into it. We'll see.
We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk a little bit of PHP before we wrap up. How about that?
I would love that.
Some RFCs in the works as of late.
Yes. So I actually threw these on our little discussion. So a couple of things about this one. Let me go ahead and share this with the video viewers of the show. This is an RFC called Array Find. It's got a pretty good. Looks like everybody's kind of liking it. Very good voting kind of turnout for it. I like these. It's funny. We were just talking about arrays earlier, and like why you don't use arrays, and then
don't
I started off RFC. So here's the question. This is what brought my attention to this. I like this concept, and it's array find. There's a couple. There's array find key, array any, and array all. These are some functions, some methods that they're looking to add to the language. So the interesting thing about this is if you use a framework, and I use Laravel a lot, Laravel has helper classes. And I always thought to myself, I'm like, wow, like, why don't they take these helper classes? Like, these helper classes should be in the actual core language. And they had a bunch of array helpers, which they still do. I mean, this is not replacing that. But I'm always wondering, I'm like, okay, what is that threshold for internals where it says, okay, that's a user land thing. Like, this array helper would be a user land thing, but this one we should be pulling into the core base. It should be. I'm always curious what they feel like that threshold is. Like, where is that line? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Probably who's going to take the time to implement it and code it. Yeah, code it well enough that it's not going to break anything else in the language.
I'm sure that's part of it.
So I feel like a lot of the RFCs, if you open an RFC that is well written, already implemented in a usable way that doesn't have a negative impact on the language, there's a good chance, unless there's a really good reason not to do it, it will be accepted and brought in. I think there's also use cases like this where you have something like array find where we all write a for each statement where we are looking for a specific item in an array, or we're looking to find a specific key in an array. That at some point there's got to be that tipping point, like, why are we writing the same 10 lines of code over and over and over again when it should just be a function?
Yeah.
Especially if it's
Yeah.
any faster in C, which it may be. I'm not sure if this was, saving somebody from writing the same 10 lines, or if it was, hey, this is actually faster because it's at the C level now.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure.
Yeah, and I'm going to go off on a little tangent here because we talked about not using arrays. I started going down another rabbit hole recently of somebody who said you should never use for each. You should always use for. And I'm like, wait, but that's what? Like, how do
No.
you always use for? And the more basic example of it is, if you're doing an array or a collection, you should get the number of items and do a for through all that, because it's, saves you like this, many milliseconds of code
No.
time. Yeah.
That if you're worried about that much time saving, you're using the wrong language. That's my 2 cents on that. You're not going to save enough time. You're not optimizing that much to where that's going to make any difference in the grand scheme of things.
Not only that, but it's going to take you the time you think you're saving, the milliseconds on top of milliseconds you think you're saving. It's going to take you that long to implement it, to like correctly figure it out and get it going correctly.
And then you got that mental overhead of, am I doing, like, how does this for work compared to a for each, which is usually very obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And what a lot of people don't realize is when they implement a for loop, they'll do like a for I equals 0
Mm-hmm.
and I is less than count. That's the wrong way to do it. Because if you put the count in that second spot, it's redoing that count every single time, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to do for I equals 0, count equals, the count of the things, and then while I is less than the variable versus the function call.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
And going back to, we're talking about never using arrays. There was an asterisk on there. Like, it's not never use arrays. It's just PHP doesn't have a true array. We have a hash map, and it's not as performant. And there's a lot of drawbacks to it, especially when you get to types, right? The arrays aren't typed. We don't know. You don't always know what's in there. So if you're not super careful, you can assume that you have all integers and you don't, or you can assume you have strings and you have objects, or whatever the case is. So it's really, there are better alternatives to an array for the way that we as developers use them, especially when it's an arbitrary array where we kind of just mash all sorts of stuff in there. Like, oh, I now need a name. I'm going to put name in there. Oh, now I'm going to add the age. There's no validation. There's, typos in the keys. Like, you're expecting full underscore name versus camel case or whatever. Just so many issues. Value objects, baby. That's where those come in.
All right, so I got one more RFC I like to talk about. We talked about it on PHP Ugly. I think John and I are of the same mind of this. It's like, why did this take so long? This is awesome.
Yeah.
But essentially, when you new up a class in code, where you used to have to use parentheses to do it,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you didn't have to. If you wanted to chain it, you had to. You can now do it without the parentheses. Or, well, not now. I'm sorry. This is the RFC that's been accepted and will probably be out in a future release of PHP. I assume the next release.
Probably. I don't know if they're targeting 9. I missed where that was. Oh, proposed for PHP 8.4.
Yeah, okay. I believe you. I don't see where that is.
It's right above the voting is where it's at.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I love chaining methods just to make it easier. Like, I need this class and I know I'm going to call a method right after it. Why do I need to assign it to a variable and then do it?
Yeah.
And then the parentheses around it just look silly.
It just never. Yeah, it looked clumsy to me. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm so happy. It's a silly thing, right? It's so silly, but yeah, it just looks so much better.
yeah.
I'm very excited about this.
Same thing with the invoking of an object. Um, Normally, you had to assign it to a variable, and then you could do variable parenthesis to call the underscore underscore invoke magic method.
Hmm.
They're taking care of that too, where you can just say new class parameters and then open close parenthesis to actually invoke it.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Oh, like
Yep.
this
Right
right here,
there.
right? Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Okay. Oh,
In
I
that case,
get that.
it looks silly because you have no parameters into the class and no parameters into the invoke function. So it's like
Yeah.
it looks kind of silly, but in most cases, you might have to pass something into the class and or pass something into the invoke method.
Mm, that's true. That's very true. Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Those are some great RFCs that we're looking forward to in future releases of PHP.
Still would love to know why that was voted 25-4. I would love to know why the 4 voted against. Like, what
Okay,
was the
so
purpose of it?
I wanted to talk about this. This is
Did
why
you?
I had a roundtable on our little list. Not to talk about roundtable, but we did. We recorded a PHP roundtable
A
last week,
week and a
2
Was it
weeks ago.
last week? Week and a half ago?
Yeah,
No, it was the third. It's
second
the third.
Friday.
Second.
Second Friday of each month is what we're doing now. So PHP Roundtable, if you don't know, is another podcast. Sammy K did it for years. It kind of went dormant for a while. Sammy asked if I wanted. It was a weird timing situation. Sammy had reached out to me and asked if I wanted to kind of take over hosting duties of PHP Roundtable. And at the time, I'm like, yeah, like, yes, please, thank you. Literally, like 2 weeks later, maybe 3 weeks later, is when we started negotiations of taking over PHP Architect, which went from zero, well, not zero, years prior. We had kind of casually mentioned it and talked about it, but had not talked about it since then. We went from that to, oh yeah, this is happening. We have to all this stuff to do now to take over PHP Architect, and I had PHP Roundtable. So I've been a very horrible custodian of PHP Roundtable, trying to find time, trying to find guests, and do it. I released a few shows, but not as many as I'd like. So I have an established panel now, and
And an
we're
established time frame, established
yeah,
schedule.
and established, date and or not date, day and time. Second Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to get together as a panel, whether we have a guest or don't. We'll get together as a panel and talk, which is what we did this last PHP roundtable.
10
And
days ago.
Derek Rathens, the internals person, a speaker, PHP tech speaker, and creator of XDebug, started chatting in Discord about the stuff we were talking about, and we're like, "Well, hey, you wanna join us?" So he dialed in and became part of the panel, which was perfect. That's exactly what I was hoping would happen.
Mm-hmm.
I say all that to say that Derek's very involved with internals. Sarah is on the show. Sarah's also very involved with internals, and that complaint that John just shared is something we've been talking about for a while. The visibility of why somebody had voted against a talk. It's there if you're willing to go through sometimes the years of email chains from internals, which everybody has access to. You don't have to subscribe to internals anymore. You can if you want to deliver to your inbox, but there's also a great site called externals.io, which puts everything up. You can even log into it, and it'll track the things that you read, the threads you had read, and haven't read yet. It's a really good site, a great way to kind of keep it track. But it's so much data. Like there's just so much conversation of back and forth of, oh, we like this, oh, we don't like this, but it's never clear like what the pros and cons are when it comes down to the voting. And I shared this with Derek, and I mean, like obviously like if you vote yes for something, it's like, okay, you just agree with it. There's nothing, you don't really need to explain why you agree to it. But if you vote no, like as a person who uses the language, I'm curious as why you voted no, especially in situations where it's like this crazy amount of yes votes and only a couple of no votes. It's like, what's the reasoning behind that no vote? Not that you're looking to call anybody out. It's just, I want to know as a developer, like there might be a very good reason for that no vote that I agree with.
Right.
And
or something I haven't thought about, right? It's
right.
like, I want other people's opinions. I don't want to just blindly go.
And it's not like we're looking to change the outcome of the vote. It's just like, oh, okay, they don't like this because they see this problem with this method. Let's just say, I'm making stuff up at this point. And maybe I agree with that. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to use this new array find method because of what this one person said. I think they have a real valid point. It applies to, my code base and how I prefer to code. So yeah, I kind of agree with that. Yeah, I mentioned that to Derek, and he's like, we don't really have an easy way of doing that. I don't know what it would take, and it's hard, right? Because in a case where everybody votes no, but there are a couple yeses, I almost want to know why the people voted yes. But like, you don't need everybody to tell you, why they voted no. If everybody's kind of agreeing to no, I mean, it's not like I need to go and personally ask why so many people voted against me as a release manager. I'm not saying that's what, I don't need all those reasons. No, but seriously, like, I just want to get like the balance of, because you kind of understand the positives just by reading the RFC. Everybody kind of agrees, hey, it fixes this or it makes this better. So you understand the positives, but you really don't understand what other people are seeing as potential drawbacks, potential breaking issues. And those are the kind of things that like it would be nice to have access to as like I'm not an internals person that I'm in there all the time looking at this stuff.
You say that you only need the no's, but I'm almost, after you see how much these people write on the email list, it's like when they vote, take a couple extra minutes to say just a sentence or two on why I voted yes or why I voted no. Yeah. Done. Right. There's already so much back and forth. Copy and paste something, or I'm sure there's something there already.
Especially with, like I said, externals.io, just put the link into whatever part of that thread that you think, validates the reason you voted for the way you voted. If right. Just put a link in there. Just give me something to look at.
Yep. Give me reasons. I need to know, especially since I'm not a C developer and don't know enough about internals and how it all works. Yeah. Would love to know why people vote certain ways. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a good one. I don't have any more. Yeah.
I think that's it, man. You gonna wrap this up?
If that's it for you, that's it for me. Yeah. I want to, again, thank Mailchimp.io for joining us on this great adventure of our podcast. Hope they stick with us. Thank you for sponsoring. Really appreciate you. Thank you to you, our viewers and listeners. Thank you for hanging out with us. And until next time, keep listening.
Keep coding.
And keep reading.
Keep reading.
Podcast, the official podcast of PHP Architect, the industry's leading tech magazine and publisher, focused on PHP and web development. Subscribe today at phparch.com to see what the leaders in the community and industry are talking about.